Am I the jerk for refusing to inherit the family farm and giving it to my younger brother instead? I, 36M, grew up on a big farm that was owned by my family, who worked as farmers for generations. Much to the detriment of my parents, I hated the farm life from a very young age. I never liked dirt or grime, and farm animals were also never my thing. So to no one's surprise, I left the farm when I turned 18 and never looked back. I currently live in a big city. I still love my family very much and visit the farm from time to time, but I'm always the happiest when I return to my urban lifestyle. My mother passed away 3 years ago, and 2 months ago I unexpectedly lost my father due to a work accident. This left my younger brother Tom, 30M, and I, as the sole beneficiaries of their estate. I didn't expect to be left with much, since my folks helped me out financially more than enough times while they were still alive. I honestly only wanted a couple of family trinkets and heirlooms to keep as a keepsake. But to my surprise, as my brother and I sat down with the attorney to discuss our father's will, we discovered that I was left with the majority of the farm, about 3/4, while Tom was left with the rest. The only reason I can fathom behind this decision is that unlike Tom, I have 2 children, 10M and 7F, so maybe that's why I was given the bigger share? But I'm not entirely sure since my children had their own inheritance in the will. Either way, this split of inheritance was ridiculous, since unlike myself, Tom actually lived on the farm and dedicated his entire life to working on it alongside our parents. I saw that Tom was also shaken up by the decision, so I reassured him that I found it absurd as well and I don't mind forfeiting the land to him. Tom said I didn't have to do that, but I insisted. After some back and forth on the topic, we mutually agreed to settle this between ourselves on a later date, when everything would be transferred under our names as our parents intended. I recently informed my wife Jules, 35F, of my decision regarding my inheritance, and she is furious with me for wanting to give most of it up. She is arguing that my decision is impulsive and short-sighted, since the farmland is worth a fortune and I'm just giving it away without a second thought. I told her that the land is worth a fortune only for those who actually intend on doing something with it, and since I neither intend to sell it or farm on it, it's effectively useless to me. Jules continued to say that it might be useless to me, but I should think about our children who might one day want to start farming. I told her in that case I'll transfer only half of the land to Tom, so our children could have a 1/4 of the land at their disposal in the hypothetical scenario they get into farming one day. Jules is now not speaking with me until I reconsider my decision. I need to hear some unbiased opinions to see if I'm in the wrong here. Am I the jerk for telling my mom she can't babysit anymore if she won't let my toddler eat a frozen waffle for breakfast? My fiancé has 2 kids from a previous relationship, Evie, 4, and Nikki, 2. They live with us full time. Their mom moved when Nikki was 4 weeks old and she doesn't even want videos. I'm 16 weeks pregnant and my fiancé and I wanted to take a weekend away before the baby comes. My mom stayed at our house and watched the girls and dog and we got back last night. She's babysat for date nights or so we can go to appointments or if we just need a break before, and we haven't had any problems, but this was rough. Nikki is going through a phase where all she'll eat in the morning is some kind of berry Eggo waffle. She also refuses to eat it if it's been cooked. I take it out of the freezer when I get up to let it somewhat thaw out, but it still has to be somewhat frozen for her to eat it. I know it's not the healthiest breakfast, but it's better for both of us than arguing with my 2-year-old at 7 in the morning. I left a note for my mom outlining mornings, nap time, and bedtime, but she still called me the first day saying she made scrambled eggs but Nikki was refusing to eat. I reminded her that Nikki only eats frozen waffles in the mornings and to defrost it ASAP so she could eat. She told me it's not healthy and Nikki needs to learn to eat real food. She didn't call about Nikki and breakfast for the rest of the trip, but when we talked to Evie on Sunday, she told us that my mom was telling Nikki we were out of waffles even though she saw them when she got a popsicle. I asked her what Nikki was eating for breakfast and she said sometimes she had some grapes but sometimes she didn't eat breakfast. I had her give my mom the phone and told her that if she didn't give Nikki the damn frozen waffles she will not be allowed to babysit. She gave Nikki the waffle but has been telling me we're going to turn the girls into spoiled brats if we give in to every demand. She and Evie apparently also had issues with Evie's wardrobe while we were gone. Evie dresses herself every morning. Most of the time it doesn't match. Today she went to daycare in a cat shirt, pajama shorts, 2 different color Crocs, and a tiara. My mom wanted Evie's clothes to match when they left the house. She's been criticizing us on the waffles and wardrobe, saying we're turning the kids into spoiled brats and threatening to keep them from her because she tried to correct them. Am I the jerk for telling her she has to give my toddler a frozen waffle or else she can't babysit? Am I the jerk for letting my daughter eat whatever she wants? I, 45F, have a 15F daughter. She is extremely active on her school's dance team. They have practices 8 hours a week, and according to her Fitbit she gets 100 plus active minutes a day on average. Because of this, I basically let her eat whatever she wants, packs her own lunches / buys school lunch, eats whatever snacks she wants, eat or not eat the family dinner, all her choice. Because of the long practices, she usually eats a normal-sized lunch, a large snack, and a large dinner every day. However, my husband, her stepfather, has told me that I need to be enforcing healthier eating habits because she's getting chubby. She's always been on the caviar side, but she's a size medium or a size 8 in most clothing items. She's 5 feet 4 inches and 150 pounds. He told me that she's going to end up obese if I don't fix it now, and that's probably the cause of her knee problems. She's hypermobile in her knees, so they'll randomly buckle backwards and get a mild sprain. I've ignored his concern on the matter, because I believe my daughter is fine the way she is, and no doctor has brought up needing to lose weight, and that the knee problems are just an unfortunate genetic component. Both me and her father have similar issues. Does this make me the jerk? Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she is ruining her child's life with an iPad? My sister, 36F, and her husband have a 10-year-old kid, who for the purposes of this post is called Jimothy, who me and my husband sometimes babysit on the weekends, and on some days I take him to school. As of about a year ago, we started to notice that Jimothy was beginning to develop an American accent. We are Australian. Small kids have phases, and so I didn't want to make it a thing. Over the next few months, the accent got thicker and Jimothy became more irritable. Me and my husband brought this up with my sister, who said that Jimothy wasn't very grumpy when with her. He then started losing interest in almost all activities that he used to enjoy. Again, this was a concern for me. Every weekend it got worse. He would complain of being bored, but when we offered an exhaustive list of all the things we could do with him, he said no to every single one. The school year for 2024 started, and on the weekend after that Jimothy told us that his teacher and a few classmates had asked him how long he'd been in the US before moving to Australia. At this point his American accent was indistinguishable from a general American accent. My husband and I were really wondering what was happening. Then, it was Jimothy's birthday party. His family was invited, including me, and so were all his friends. This was the moment that made me realize to some extent what was going on. He was on an iPad, scrolling some kind of short-form content that I did not recognize. His friends wanted to play with him, and he just did not notice they were there. People were giving him presents, and he acted like he was inconvenienced for having to turn the iPad off. Never before had any of my nieces or nephews reacted like this upon me giving them money and delicious treats. I told my sister that something was going on, and that Jimothy is obviously not in a good way. She seemed very offended that I was questioning her parenting choices, as she put it, and she decided that me and my husband babysitting Jimothy had to stop. The next time I saw Jimothy was very recently, at my niece's birthday party, different parents. Jimothy was completely glued to the iPad. He was noticeably skinnier, which I suspect was because he was forgetting to eat in favor of iPad time. And when anyone went over to talk to him, he would almost instinctively push the screen towards his body so nobody could see. I had to talk to my sister and her husband. I told them what I thought, that a year ago Jimothy was an energetic child who got along really well with everyone, and now he's reclusive and it's obvious from just looking at him that he's skipping meals. My sister denied any changes in Jimothy's behavior, but her husband did admit that I was right to some extent, and Jimothy's friends had stopped trying to hang out with him because he said no 100% of the time. I told my sister she was wrecking Jimothy's life by continuing to let this iPad stuff happen. She started shouting at me, and I walked out of the party. Am I the jerk for forcing 3 of my kids to get a job and charging rent but not the other? I always told my kids that if they go to college, I'll take care of everything else. Told them that since they were little kids. Now I have 4 kids. 3 daughters and 1 son. The 3 oldest, the daughters, decided college wasn't for them. I understood, but I told them they can't just sit in my house. I made them get jobs and I charged them rent. $200 a month. They're all doing well, but they all still live in the house. My youngest is 18. That's the boy. He graduated 3 months ago but just got accepted into a college. I did not force him to get a job, as I said if they go to school I'll literally do everything else. He himself decided he wanted a job. He works at FedEx and makes about $300 a week. I don't charge him rent and I'm still gonna try to take care of him until he's done with college. My daughter are more than mad that he's not paying anything. They believe him having a job means he can pay something. They also believe I shouldn't take care of everything for him if he has a job and he's not paying rent. I'm not charging him rent because he's going to school. Him getting a job changes nothing in my mind. He simply saw this as a golden opportunity and is running with it. Am I the jerk for forcing my daughter to get a job and charge rent while my son doesn't have to pay anything because he went to school?